There's highs and there's lows, and then there's valleys of confusion, there's valleys of getting lost, like where am I, where do I go? And it's a part of the process, and that's what's so incredible about art, is that it can help you heal and get to that next step.
All right. Hi, I'm Nick, and I'm joined by Hayley Kiyoko for the latest in NME's In Conversation series.
Hey.
How's it going today?
It's going great. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. How have you been finding London?
It's been amazing. There was the Jubilee, so tried to see that. Missed it. Didn't get even see it on the TV. Missed the parade, but was out on the streets and Trafalgar Square, and it was fun. And then I did Proud and Loud on Saturday, which was so much fun at the Royal Albert Hall. So starting Pride Month off right.
Have you been to London a lot over the years?
I have. I love London, but it's obviously since the pandemic. I haven't been here since 2019. Happy to be here.
Yeah, well, I guess the first thing I wanted to ask is, you have a new album coming, Panorama.
Yes.
Where did the title come from?
So Panorama kind of encompasses my journey of realizing, when you go on a hike and you're like hiking and you wait to get to the top of the mountain to like take a picture and like take in the view, but like as you go up to the top of the mountain, there's a view at every point. And so I had this realization going through my mental and physical health struggles, the highs and the lows, that like every point in our journey there's a view. And even when you're at your lowest, you have overcome so much in your life just to get to that point and to celebrate that and acknowledge that. And that's what Panorama means to me, is acknowledging that and celebrating those highs and lows.
When did you start working on the album?
I started working on the album, I want to say like 2020.
Huh.
Yeah, like there's maybe one or two songs from 2019 and then 2020, yeah.
And when you started working on it, what kind of headspace were you in?
Not a great headspace. It was hard. I was like, I had, the pandemic hit, and it was just kind of everything changed for everyone. But it also was a great time to self-reflect and really look inwards. And kind of for me, I felt like I was dealing with a lot of health issues, and I had to kind of like pull myself apart to put myself back together and find a more refined, more high-functioning version of myself. And I feel like that is such a parallel to what the album is and what Panorama embodies, which is basically a refined version of my music, my self-expression, knowing my authentic truth, sharing that. There's just a boldness to it that I didn't have the first album.
Were your health issues kind of exacerbated by like the kind of pace of being a recording artist? Because I guess pre-pandemic it was so full on for you because your career was going like this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was crazy. I released Expectations in 2018, and we were just touring, and people talk about touring all the time, but you don't really know what you're doing. There's no like handbook of like, this is how you take care of yourself, this is how you sleep, this is how you eat. And so it was kind of, I got home from that tour and had to really spend a lot of time really kind of revitalizing my body to kind of like be there for myself.
I always wonder with artists when they come off tour and they've had this kind of really like intense schedule where their whole day's been planned out, and then suddenly it's like, right, you can go and like live like a normal person now. That must be very hard mentally to kind of think like, what do I do now? Yeah,
I feel like there's like a common like down spell when you like get back from tour and you're not like moving around all the time, and then you're just like home and you're like, okay, cool, what do I do now? Okay, I'm gonna garden, I'm gonna pick up a hobby, and then write another album.
Do you find the kind of public-facing aspect of your job difficult sometimes? Are there some days where you feel like, I'm going to find it really hard to be Hayley today?
Yeah, I think that social media brings a lot of pressure in general to any kind of creative, because it's you're sharing yourself, and it's a vulnerable thing, and sometimes you have a day where you just don't want to, and you just kind of like sit on the couch and put a blanket over your head and just like hang out, which I feel like is a very normal feeling.
And like famously your fans call you lesbian Jesus.
Yeah.
Is that ever feel normal? Have you got your head around that, or is that still weird?
It's not weird to me anymore, because they love calling me lesbian Jesus, and so I appreciate them and acknowledge them, and I accept it. I'm grateful.
Yeah, so the album has an amazing exec producer, Danja, the guy who did Gimme More for Britney, Promiscuous, Nelly Furtado.
Yeah.
At what point did he come on board, and were those kind of big songs for you growing up?
They were definitely massive songs for me growing up, and Danja is a legend. And so I had written most of the album and produced it with Pat Morrissey and Kill Dave, and I was just missing something with it. And so we brought Danja on board, and I was just like, here's the album. This is, can you listen to this and, kind of be my mentor? And so he came in and started muting things and refining things and kind of going through that process, like I was telling you, going through my health issues of like refining things, taking better care of myself. And he kind of just went in and refined and helped me get to the level that I wanted to be at, as a pop artist. And it was a very challenging process, but it was an incredible process because he reminded me that my voice needs to be heard. And I think a lot of times in music, I just love music, so I love like walls of sound. And I like grew up listening to Arcade Fire and like Coldplay, and I just love like just walls of sound. And sometimes those walls of sound compete with my voice. And so with this album, he allowed that space of like, hey, like I want to hear you. And so we found that fine line of feeling those walls of sound and letting it take you away, but also being able to let my voice speak for itself as well, which was really an interesting process.
When you've got the album already kind of written, recorded, and someone else is coming in and giving an opinion, was that quite hard to kind of take those critiques at times, or were you kind of prepared for it?
I think as an artist, you have to decide whether you want advice or not, because as an artist, you're like, this is what I've made, don't touch it. And so I really wanted mentorship and guidance, to get to where I wanted to be. And I think you have to be willing to want it, to receive it, yeah.
That's really interesting how you worked with him, because sometimes when you see it, like an exec producer credit on an album, you don't quite know what that means, but it sounds like...
Yeah, it would be like, this is a song, it's missing this, and I don't know how to get there. How do I get there? And so it's just like playing around with it, muting things, unmuting things, and finding the right balance. And it's sometimes like simplicity and being able to create in a simple way is quite challenging. And... yeah, he just really elevated the whole project.
Amazing.
Yeah.
New single For the Girls. What was your aim when you were writing that song? What were you trying to kind of achieve with it?
For the girls, obviously. I love women, and I was working on this album, and I was like, I need like an anthem for women and celebrating women, and a song that feels like empowers you and makes you feel sexy. And so that was honestly the seed. And then obviously we got the record For the Girls, and it was such an incredible experience, and directing the music video as well, doing a queer bachelor. We had 15 queer contestants and shot it multi-camera and kind of like a reality show, and we were all trying to find love.
The video is so fun. Where did you get the idea to do that from? It's such a kind of fun idea, as you say, to kind of do this kind of queer pastiche on The Bachelor.
Well, I've definitely watched a lot of Bachelor, part of the Bachelor Nation, and I also just love like reality TV. So I love like Temptation Island, and all those dating shows are just so fun. Because we all just want to find love, and so that's kind of where the idea came from. And this song is just so fun and wild and free, and so we were like, let's try this, and it was amazing. It was so much fun.
You've become really known for putting queer representation front and centre of your videos. I was wondering, have there been points in your career where there's been kind of pushback from other people in the industry being like, maybe that's too queer, or even maybe they don't say it as overtly as that, maybe it's more like, oh, can you just tone it down a bit? Have you had those kind of comments? Yeah,
I've had tons of them. In my circle and outside my circle, like it's challenging, and I think also too, I've had brands pull out of music videos because it's too risque or it's too bold when they're really just talking about queerness. So I've had a lot of hardships creating these visuals, but when it's hard and you're doing something different and it makes people uncomfortable, it's probably something you should go through with, because we need that representation.
Has it got easier, or has things not really changed much? Are brands still squeamish in 2022 the way they maybe were in 2017?
They definitely are.
They definitely are.
Yeah, but I think there's also really incredible brands as well, you know, so I think it's just aligning yourself with the right people that understand the movement and, you know, supporting and being proper allies, you know, outside of June and, you know, all year long, year round, and then you find your people and you ride with them.
This kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, but does the whole lesbian Jesus thing come with a certain responsibility? Obviously it's a fun title, but is that something you kind of are thinking about when you do a video that has queer representation in it?
I'm not thinking about that nickname specifically, or the weight of that. I'm not like Santa Claus, like getting like all these like folders of like the queer list. But I think I'm always thinking about wanting to just be as authentic as possible and being like, does this feel true to me? And if it doesn't, maybe I shouldn't do it. Maybe I should try something else. And like, I think that that's like really important as you're navigating just the industry in general, because you're like, ooh, I love that. Like, I want to try that. And it's like, does this feel right to me? Like, does this inspire me? And I feel like my best work comes from those moments of like, what does this actually mean to me? And like, does this inspire me? And does this make me feel excited? And so, yeah, so it's good to have those check-ins in those moments.
Does it get more difficult to kind of hold on to that authenticity as you get bigger? Because I guess as your career goes like this, there's more and more opinions, more and more opportunities coming your way, more stuff to say yes or no to. Does it kind of get harder to hold on to that kind of core, like, Hayley-ness in the music?
I think just being a human being, it takes effort to live your authentic truth and actually do what you want to do, right? Because there's all these like voices of like, oh, you should do this, but I really want to do that. And it's like deciphering, what do you really want? And so I think that just, as a human being, takes effort. And then as an artist, it can get blurry sometimes, I'm sure. But I think for me, Panorama and this album is me feeling really sure of who I am. And I think, you know, Expectations was my debut album, and it was so exciting because I was experiencing and exploring my authentic truth and almost like catching up with my past, because a lot of queer people are always like catching up with their past. And I feel like Panorama is me living my authentic truth and getting to share my present self. And it's really exciting.
Well, with that in mind, there's a song on the album, Luna, which is about lusting for an older woman. What made you want to write that song? Because that's probably a song that we haven't really heard that lyrical idea before.
Yeah, I love older women. I love like mature. I feel like anyone who's like mature and wise, sexy, I feel like. But yeah, I wanted to write a song about lusting over an older woman, but also this play off of Luna and this moon, and I mean the moon's seen everything, and it also like drives you crazy and like goes, you know, when the sun goes down. And so I love that song so much. It reminds me of like it's never happened to me, but like falling in love in like Italy and like listening to the song and dancing outside, and it just makes me feel really free.
What song on the album do you think will surprise people the most?
I feel like a lot of the songs on the album will surprise people. I have a ballad called Supposed to Be. I think that'll definitely surprise people in the sense of it's a song where you can really hear me just sing. And so I don't really have a lot of ballads. I like up-tempo, and like I love like walls of sound and weird transitions and all that stuff. And so I think that song will surprise people. Underground is one of my favorite songs on the album as well. It's very personal to me, and I love that it rides this fine line of like sadness, deep sadness, but also has this like pulsating beat you'll hear during the choruses that just like keep you going. And a lot of times when you're depressed, you don't know how, but you keep going, right? And so there's this like this pulsating rhythm that's just gonna keep you going day by day. And I just love that song so much, and I hope it resonates with my fans.
It's supposed to be one of the songs where Danja was like, okay, put your voice up in the mix.
Yeah, supposed to be definitely was like, let's mute everything. Let's just hear your voice sing this incredible song you wrote. And I was like, are you sure? And yeah, that was a breakthrough song for sure.
And with a song like Underground, was writing that to an extent like part of the healing process for you?
Absolutely. I mean, I wrote Underground at a very low point in my life, and that's why music is so incredible. It's so cathartic and a way to express yourself when you feel like you can't, and then you end up with this song that becomes this time capsule of this moment, this very intense moment of your life, and throughout listening to the song over and over again, you're able to heal those parts, and that's what's so like incredibly magic about music.
See, with mental health, it's a journey to kind of look after yourself, but are there certain things that you've realised you kind of need to keep yourself healthy? Are there certain kind of non-negotiables, especially when you're like on the road and touring?
Yeah, there are a lot of non-negotiables. I'm laughing because I was like, the past couple of years, I was like, I need a lot of things to be functioning at a high level. Food has been a huge thing for me. I eat like an anti-inflammatory lifestyle, and that eating that diet, I don't like using the word diet, but that lifestyle has literally healed so much for me, and I've been able to be there for myself. And so healing myself with food was a huge thing, because the Western and Eastern, figuring out what's right for you and your body. Journaling is a really amazing tool. Therapy is an incredible tool. Meditation's a great tool that I'm not great at, but I try to incorporate in my routine. And working out, exercising has been really helpful too.
When did you realise that that's what you needed to do and that it would help?
During a mental breakdown, for sure. I was having a mental breakdown because for people who've gone through a lot of health issues, there's so many doctors you go to, and they're like, do this, do that, and then you're spending so much money, and you're like, and I had this moment where I was like, they're telling me I'm having an inflammation issue. I'm just going to cut out, foods that are going to cause inflammation. And so I bought a bunch of books, read about it, started eating, and started healing. It's crazy. It's
kind of amazing that you can, as you say, you can have all this expert advice and then do something that's relatively simple.
Yeah, I know.
And like free.
I know, and free, I know. So yeah, it was really helpful.
What would you say like the essential ingredients of a Hayley Kiyoko song are at this point in your career? We now know that it's turning the vocals up a bit.
Yeah, it's turning the vocals up a little bit. I grew up playing drums, so I love like a good kick, a good snare. It's probably like something weird sounding, like in a unique, interesting, just sound bite that's looped. Probably a synth bass, and my vocals, and probably like maybe like a little bit of a like twangy guitar too. Kind of comes into a lot of my songs.
Do you sometimes just write to a beat? Can you do?
Yeah. I prefer to write to a beat because I feel like when you write to chords, you're committing to that melody and that world and space. And when you write to a beat, you can start in one melody in one space and then be like, oh, I don't really like that, and then go into a totally different space. And so for me, writing to a beat is the way to go.
Also wanted to ask about collaborations. You just did a really fun one. Tastes So Good with Vincent and NME. How did this come about? And the video's wild, there's so many people in it.
The whole, everything about it was wild. When you say how did it come about, it was just like Jake Wilson, the director, just calling the gang, and we all came together, and it was, Patricia Arquette was in the commercial. It was crazy and so queer and so fun. But I loved the song, and, Can is a queer-owned company, and so that was exciting, which doesn't happen very often during Pride Month, and so we all just jumped on board. It was a blast. It's very wild.
On Thursday, so the start of our long weekend, my friend actually DM'd me on Instagram being like, this song is my weekend mood.
I love it. The gays love it.
Did you, because Sarah Michelle Gellar's in the video, did you get to meet her, or was she?
I didn't get to meet her.
Because she wasn't in your scene. Yeah, I wasn't sure of how tight it was, or.
I know, but
Because that's a real moment.
That was a moment, for sure.
When something like, how do you decide what collaborations are right for you and which ones aren't? Because I guess at this point you must have a lot of people wanting to work with you, but sometimes it must feel like it's not the right look for you.
I think it just it lines up the way it's supposed to. You know, it's hard, especially because we're all on different album cycles. We're all on touring, and it's like you could want to collaborate with so many people, but maybe like it's like a relationship. If you guys aren't on the same timeline, then it's just you're just gonna kind of miss each other. But collaborating is such an incredible process, and obviously on Expectations, I had my song What I Need with Kaylani, and that was just such a, like I said, we were on the same timeline. She was in LA, I was in LA. We got together, we wrote the song, asked her to be in the music video. She said sure. It was just like so amazing how it worked out.
Is it normally as simple as that though? No. Absolutely
not. I mean, normally a lot of the times it doesn't work out because it doesn't, work out. But I do have a song called Forever featuring Johnny Rain on the album, and he's an incredible artist, and we wrote that song together, I want to say like three and a half years ago, and it was one of my favorite songs, but at the time, I had just released Expectations, it didn't make sense, and then it didn't really fit this I'm Too Sensitive for This Shit EP, and so it's one of my favorite songs, and I've had it forever, and I'm so excited to release it with him.
It must be amazing after having sat on it for so long.
It's still such a great song. I was like, it has to be on the album.
How did the collaboration with aespa come about? The K-pop.
I just wrote that song. I think I was writing it for the album, and then I decided not to. It didn't fit the right vibe for Panorama specifically, but I knew it was a great song, and then they pitched it for aespa, and that was it.
Amazing. Something else I wanted to ask about is you did RuPaul's Celebrity Drag Race a couple of years ago, and you won your episode.
Yes, I have my what do you call it? My wand, my trophy in the living room.
I was wondering, did you learn anything new about yourself from doing that show?
I learned so much from doing that show. It was a very vulnerable, obviously, if you watch the episode, I'm like crying the whole time. Like, it was very vulnerable for me because I have always struggled with finding the fine line between my masculine energy and my feminine energy. And when I think of a drag queen, I think of feminine energy. And Vanjie helped me so much getting through that episode and that experience, because drag is about being who you want to be and being who you are. And so it was an incredible experience, and I think I walked away with so much more self-love and confidence that I definitely needed at that time.
It seems like on Drag Race, a lot of people have like an emotional moment on that show or self-realize it. What do you think it is about like the workroom or that show that kind of gets people to kind of like tap into something in their core?
I think it just, it makes you question like who you are and who you feel most comfortable being and presenting. And so I think it just really hits all of those core pieces in the heart, and everyone's just sobbing. It's great. It's like therapy.
Yeah.
Drag is therapy.
It seems that way. It seems like so many people.
It's very healing. It's a wonderful world, truly.
What did you learn from RuPaul in particular? Because it feels like he's got such a kind of unique energy and take on the world. He seems to have everything sussed.
Yeah, RuPaul's like a boss and very tall. I was not prepared. I was like, hello, nice to meet you. Yeah, I mean, I just was so grateful to be a part of that episode, and hope to do more RuPaul Drag Race in the future.
And you haven't just met RuPaul, you've met the president recently, right?
Yeah, I shook President Biden's hand.
How did that come about?
And I have a group selfie with him and a group selfie with Kamala Harris.
Wow.
Yeah.
So like, why were you at the White House? Like, what was that for?
Like, I don't know. No, there was an AAPI heritage event, and I somehow got on the list and was invited. And it was a random Thursday afternoon. I got the text of, hey, do you want to come to the White House on Tuesday? I said, absolutely, let me clear my schedule. And we flew to DC, almost missed my flight. it was crazy. I was so honored to just be included, and I got there and they had no plus one, so I just like went alone and didn't know very many people, and it was just, I don't know, I was just so grateful to be a part, and it was wonderful to be surrounded by my community and to see so many incredible people doing such an amazing work for our community. There were a lot of like senators and I mean just so many people. It wasn't like, I thought it was going to be like Hollywood. It wasn't that at all. I mean, and so I was shocked I was there. I had a great time.
If you're going to an event like that by yourself, like what kind of small talk do you make? What's the conversation opener?
I don't know. I literally like walked in the rose garden, got some water. I was like, okay, and I just introduced myself and be like, hey, I'm Hayley. What do you do? And so it was a really amazing like mixer, and it was just cool to connect with incredible people that are doing amazing work. And I saw Versha, who's the editor-in-chief of Teen Vogue there, so I knew her, and Michelle Kwan, I know. My mom's an ice skating choreographer, and so I grew up with Michelle, so I got to see her. So there were a couple of people I knew, but it was pretty amazing to experience that. And the walk to the Rose Garden is very long, and so I was wearing high heels, and they don't tell you like, hey, you're gonna walk like a mile to get there. So like I definitely threw my lower back out afterwards for sure, and I'll never forget it. It was amazing.
Did it take you a while, like afterwards, to kind of process that? Oh, actually, that actually did happen. I did just do that.
Yeah, I think I'm still processing it. It was the week of the release for the Girls, so it was just mayhem. Just like, it was just mind blowing.
I'll just ask a couple more questions. One
Okay.
is, we touched on social media earlier. I was wondering, what's the wildest thing you've ever read about yourself on social media?
I've read a lot of untrue things on social media that are just like, okay, very untrue, and then you continue on. But I also have seen a lot of like hilarious things on social media that I love, and I feel like obviously social media has its negative and positive impact for sure, but it's also like, especially over the past couple of years, it was really nice to be able to scroll TikTok or whatever and just like laugh and feel kind of connected to people when we were, so isolated for so long. But I don't know, you might have to tell me some of the absurd things you've seen on social media about me.
Well, I mean, it's not absurd. I just thought it goes back to what we were saying earlier. Like, when you tweeted, I've just been to the White House, and the top comment's like, yes, lesbian representation at the White House. I thought, that's like one of your fans.
Yeah.
Straight in there.
Bringing the queers to the White House, yeah.
Are there any kind of like social media platforms you avoid because of the comments? Like, are some worse than others, or do you still read what people are saying about you?
Twitter can get a little crazy, for sure. But I think I've learned to kind of like share what I want to share and see what I want to see and interact with the people I want to interact with. And, I think it's good to have some boundaries.
Are there any words you've had to mute on Instagram? Like, I only ask this because I interviewed Gus Kenworthy, who was actually in the video with you. The
I love
video.
Gus.
And he said that he's muted like the word fag on Instagram because people just put that there, and he's like, well, yeah, I know that's true, but he just got sick of seeing it from people, so he's got rid of it. Yeah,
I've probably muted that same word, and like there's no need to see those hateful comments, and I also want my fans to feel like they're in a safe space too, and not feel like they're going to get attacked by, expressing themselves. So
I still find it wild that people think that's like an acceptable way to behave.
Yeah, I mean, I find it wild that there's a lot of things going on in my country and the world, and I think the most important thing we can do is live our authentic truth and share that with people. To help normalize and give representation to marginalized communities, and we have to keep going and spreading love and hope, because we need a lot of it.
Is that what you've like fundamentally see your purpose as an artist as?
Yeah, I hope that my music inspires hope or ignites hope. I think that that's the main goal, because life is challenging, the world is challenging, our personal lives, I mean, everything can be really hard, and we need support, we need comfort, we need to be able to believe that things are going to get better, because they are. But it is, you know, back to my album title, Panorama, there's highs and there's lows, and then there's valleys of confusion, there's valleys of getting lost, like where am I, where do I go? And it's a part of the process, and that's what's so incredible about art, is that it can help you heal and get to that next step to continue on or to find a direction.
What advice would you give to someone who feels like they're right in the middle of a valley of confusion?
It's hard because a lot of people will say like to just lean into it, but it's so hard. Like when you're lost and confused and you don't know what you're doing, it's hard to be like, yeah, this is great. Like that doesn't feel great at all. My advice is that it's normal. I feel lost so many times that you'll wake up and you'll be like, what am I doing? Or like, is this the right thing for me? Or where am I headed? Or, you know, I think what's amazing about life is that you can always start over. And if you don't like where you're at or how you're acting or who you're surrounding yourselves with, like, you can start over tomorrow. And so my advice for people who are feeling lost in the valley is to know that they're not alone, and it's a very normal feeling, and that they're going to find their way, because you have to get lost to find your way, right? And so it goes back to Panorama.
Last question. What do you want people to think when they hear the name Hayley Kiyoko? Like, what do you want to pop into their head?
Excited, I don't know. Happy, hopeful, inspired, positive feelings.
Thanks so much for your time. It's been really fun.
Yeah, thank you.